It used to be I felt I could be myself. Now I feel I represent women everywhere.
Oh, Mary, that's all in your head.
Oh, yeah? What would you say if the station manager kept trotting in groups of people and saying, "This is our woman executive"?
What do you say?
Oh, usually, hi.
Joining us now, staff writer for the Los Angeles Times, Stephen Battaglio, who covers TV and media. Also with us, TV columnist for BBC Culture, Jennifer Cation Armstrong. She's the author of the book, Mary and Lou and Rhoda and Ted, and all the brilliant minds who made the Mary Tyler Moore Show a classic. Great to have you on board today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
What a big loss passing.
A big loss passing, but Stephen, where do you put Mary Tyler Moore in the pantheon of TV shows? Is it a top 5, a top 10?
Absolutely top 5.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in terms of how it changed television, sitcoms in general were for children, you know, high concepts, absurd things, a lot of things with little kids on them. There was no show about adults. CBS at the time was a very rural network, appealed mostly to older people, you know, out in C and D counties, as they called them. And they really had to change because baby boomers were about to become a very powerful consumer force. It really was a decision about demographics to put a show like Mary Tyler Moore on because it was contemporary. It represented what was happening right at that moment in 1970.
I mean, CBS, it's amazing what CBS did back in the early 70s with All in the Family, the Jeffersons later, Mary Tyler Moore. Even, Bob Newhart was even about a guy in Chicago.
Well, once Mary Tyler Moore worked, CBS wanted more shows like that. And Mary Tyler Moore and her husband, Grant Tinker, who founded MTM Enterprises, knew how to make those shows. They knew how to speak to America at that moment in a real contemporary way.
Jennifer, there will be 20-somethings, 30-somethings, maybe some 40-somethings who say, I don't get why an unmarried working woman was revolutionary when that's so part of their lives now.
Yeah.
Why was it revolutionary at the time?
It was so huge. I mean, it was so huge that when Mary Tyler Moore and her husband Grant Tinker and their producers pitched this idea, they originally pitched it as she was going to be divorced. And that was just no way. I mean, that was scandalous. So they got her to be a single woman as kind of a compromise, instead getting over a divorce or a breakup. And this was just still unheard of, you know. I mean, they had That Girl before that, but that was about it. And That Girl was a great show, but she was still kind of like, her father was a character on the show, her boyfriend was a character on the show. This was a totally independent woman. The main, her main companions are people like her best friend Rhoda, who is even more kind of liberated and edgy than Mary's character.
And it was often implied on the program that she would spend the night with a man who she wasn't necessarily in love with.
Right.
In fact, Valerie Harper had that great description of her. She's wholesome, but not too wholesome. She likes a great big glass of milk to wash down her birth control pill.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of my favorite lines that Mary had on the show was, I've been around, or I've at least been nearby.
It's hard if you weren't there. It's hard to understand how timid television was in talking about anything, all of the really explosive things that were happening in American society. And this show took very small steps, but it did so. It succeeded because it was funny. It was great entertainment.
I even remember over 4 decades a scene talking about the contrasts where she stood up for herself, for press freedoms, got thrown in jail, and that was a big moment. But she kept obsessing about the fact, I think, she said she couldn't go to bed without brushing her teeth.
Yes.
She needed a toothbrush. And a fellow inmate basically said, I love you and all, but if you bring up your toothbrush again, I'm going to kill you.
Yes, that was such a big deal. And she asked for equal pay on the show. And interestingly, as a compromise, she didn't even totally get it. She got a raise, but she still didn't get equal pay to her predecessor, who was a man. There's a throwaway line that implies that she's on the pill.
Right.
There's a lot of, they were very sneaky and clever about getting this stuff in.
So here's a moment from the first season where Mary gets put in charge of election night coverage in the middle of a snowstorm.
Mary, I want you to be in charge out there on the floor tonight.
You want me to be in charge? But that's your job.
No, my job is telling you what your job is.
Oh, but
Look, if it's a question of extra money...
no, it's not a question of money.
Good, because there isn't any.
Well, thank you. I have an important announcement to make. But first of all, I want to thank you all for the very good work.
Mary, would you get to the important announcement? You're cutting into our dinner hour.
Well, that is the important announcement. We're only going to take a half an hour for dinner tonight.
I can't eat dinner in a half hour.
Of course you can. It takes someone that long to cut up his food for it.
The reason we have to eat in a half an hour is that it's snowing really very badly out. We want to make...
I can't eat a whole dinner in a half hour, and that's all there's to it.
Well, Ted, I didn't want to have to say this, but, well, just a little while ago, I was in Mr. Grant's, Lou's office, and he put me in charge of the show tonight. So, as the person in charge of the show tonight, I'm saying that we're going to take a half an hour for dinner.
As the anchorman of the show tonight, I say... I'll just have to eat my dinner a little faster, that's all. Let's go again.
Oh, my gosh. There's so many ways I connect with that.
Right?
And so many men like that I've met along the way, like Ted Baxter.
Ted
Yes.
Baxter,
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
The
Yes.
original anchorman.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
You know, and Stephen, he had Mary Tyler Moore, her life, her personal life off the show. She had so much tragedy.
Oh,
And if you go back and
fascinating.
read through it, you know, whether it was her son in the accidental shooting, her sister, her brother, just a lot of loss along the way for her.
There was a lot of sadness there, and I think that was probably a reason why she wanted to do more serious roles with more gravitas later in her career. But she was always drawn back to comedy. This is how America loved her and wanted to see her. And she was a staple on television for a very long time. She's a really iconic TV star, and one that endures because of all the ways we can watch these shows now. You know, I remember the show when it was first on in syndication, and you'd watch 3 or 4 of them a day. Then it became a hit on Nick at Night to another generation.
Totally.
And probably people last night were watching 4 or 5 episodes on Hulu. You
For
can
the
stream
first
it.
time.
Yes, for the first time.
I hope so.
Jennifer, at what moment did they realize they had something special?
It was a few episodes in. It wasn't right away. They were taking risks, as we talked about, so they knew that, you know, this might not work, and it tested terribly, by the way. Even though it's a beautiful pilot episode, it tested awfully. People were confused. Why is she single? Why isn't she looking for a man?
Did Laura Petrie get divorced?
Yes, that was a big thing. They were worried.
Why is she
that-
wearing pants?
Yeah, exactly. It was very confusing for people. And why is Rhoda so mean? But
It tested horribly, but they went ahead
people
anyway.
but they went ahead anyway.
They had a 13-episode commitment
That
when they
was-
bought the show, so
that
they
was the
had
key.
to put it was pay or play. They had to put it on.
So it was right around when they were winding down that first 13, and they got the renewal because it turned out, as Stephen was saying, that, you know, America actually wanted to see these, you know, darker, more adult, more realistic sitcoms besides things like Green Acres.
And when All
That
in the
was
Family
dark
was
and
added
adult.
the next year, that became a huge hit, and that really fed the audience into the
Right.
whole night. It was one of these great nights of television, Saturday night on CBS,
Yeah.
Wow.
that lasted for most of the rest of the decade.
It was an amazing.
Stephen Battaglio, Jennifer Cation Armstrong, thank you both for
Thank
being
you,
on
guys.
this
Thank you. Having us.
Greatly
A big
appreciate
day.
it.
Up next, we're going to go inside North Korea with Chief Global Correspondent Bill Neely. Plus, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard meets with Bashar al-Assad in Syria, and the Dow hits 20,000. We'll explain while Willie Geist played a role in reaching the milestone.
It was the Geist
It was all
rally,
you,
actually.
Willie.
It started with
right?
you.
Thank you, Willie.
I think
me,
it
it's the
was
numbers.
on Willie.
Numbers don't lie, guys.
Right back.